Rhys, welcome to the Crack On podcast.
Thanks for having me, John boy.
Welcome to my home.
Yeah, grateful for the invite, mate, and thanks for having me.
Yeah, bro, mate, bro. Well, we will always kick off the podcast with just taking us back as far as you can. So tell us a bit about Rhys.
Came into the world in 1982 in Johannesburg. Had a wonderful childhood. Grew up in a place called Ramburg. Went to a pretty cool little primary school called Blegari. Ended up in an incredible boys-only boarding school called King Edward VII. Introduced to rugby for the first time at the age of 14, just after South Africa had won the World Cup.
Amazing.
Yeah, the 5 years I spent there were challenging but incredible. Made friends for life. By the end, I'd had my first junior representative honours for SA, the academy, like the B team for the schools.
Yeah.
That same point, I made the decision, I had got offered the opportunity to come to Wales, to Newport Youth. Made that decision that I would come over. I'm still here 23 years later. Haven't played for Wales 7 times. I was a pro for just on 10 years.
Within Newport as well, wasn't it?
Yeah, started with Newport Youth, Newport, Gwent Dragons, Lethley Scarlets, Wales, Barbarians. Then a heart attack, which ended my career. An operation that implanted a machine in my heart, which keeps me alive to this day. Oh. And just been on and off the heart transplant list the last 8 years, mate. In that time, had the most incredible change of perspective, change of life circumstance. Learned how to go from struggling to thriving.
And everything in between.
Yeah,
all
and
right.
breathwork.
Yeah, and breathwork in between. Which we're going to cut. I mean, that's a whirlwind tour of the life of. I mean, it wasn't just a school, though, in South Africa. It was a big sort of rugby school, wasn't it? People like Brian Abana.
Yeah,
Malcolm Marks. So you were in with the big boys.
Yeah.
What was it like? Take us back to that point where rugby in South Africa. Where does that sit compared to rugby in Wales? How does it compare?
I mean, the passion's the same, right?
All right.
Very passionate about their rugby. I'd say the one glaring difference is in the education system. So like their schools, it's a little bit like the US kind of system, the college system with sport. All the sport is done in the schools. Clubs outside of the schools isn't such a big thing, whereas in Wales and the UK, it's a lot more prominent. But the schools are where it happens.
Yeah. Grace College?
Yeah, Grey College. I think I don't even know how many Springboks they have now, but like a lot.
Yeah, my boy played them in the summer just gone.
Yeah.
So they luckily enough got to go to Thailand with the college. They were about 3 seconds away from beating them.
Really?
Unbelievable in the semis, yeah.
Wow.
But they came and scored in. They had a penalty try. But my boy, before he went, showed me a video of them being walked out onto the bus. And I'll give you an example, right? Gray's was unbelievable. All the school turned up. Let me tell you what his was like. I dropped him off at Subway, and he got picked up at Subway and put on the bus. Right, that's what his breakfast was, and that's the difference between like the send off. Yeah, right? It was unbelievable.
Yeah,
like I watched the video and he was like, "Dad, look at this college we're playing." I'm like, "Wow," So it is different, isn't it? The school.
It was, yeah, completely different. And it was mad, really, for me, to play at that level at the age of 17, 18, play in front of between 5 and 10,000 people kind of on a Saturday at that age. All the school were there. You got all the parents, all the supporters, the old boys, and they're all singing these songs, orchestrated by the guy at the front, the whacker man, we used to call him. And just incredible, mate, honestly. And
pressure?
You felt... No, I felt it was incredible. I mean, there was pressure, of course, to perform and stuff. And then I went from that to Newport Youth, and I remember my first Newport Youth game, it was at Hartridge in Newport. It was stinking, it was freezing, there was mud on the pitch. I thought it was like, obviously, they're not going to play on that. There was like puddles, and they went straight out. And I just remember there was about 20 people around the pitch, and I was just like, what am I doing here? Like,
what have I done here?
It was a rude awakening, mate. I bet. Big time.
Welcome to Hartridge.
Literally.
If you came to Newport, what was that sort of welcome like?
It was great. They were wild, mate. Do you know what I mean? And part of the reason I came over is that I myself was pretty wild. I was a bit of a loose cannon. Yeah. When I came to Newport, that's what they were like. They'd play a game on a Saturday. Their youth was a real tight bunch of friends. Yeah. And on the night out then, we would get together, make a circle, brand new set of friends, beers in the middle. And I mean, yeah, it was crazy. Like, and we'd go out into Newport, and that was that. Like, and at that point in time, Newport was, believe it or not, actually a decent crack.
Mate, Zanzibar was the place.
Mate, it was the place.
It was the place. I didn't even know Cardiff existed.
I know, mate. I used to get a taxi back from Cardiff, and Newport was the bomb. Like.
Yeah. No, I remember. So the interesting bit with that was the drinking culture within it.
Oh yeah,
it was quite a big drinking culture within that time, man.
Oh mate, massive. Not too different from South Africa. In all honesty, it was more extreme in Newport. Just the behaviour, like the things we were getting up to. I hadn't quite seen yet in my life, if I'm honest.
Right.
I embraced it as well. I'm probably not going to go into too much detail here, but I'll leave it to your imagination. It was just things you can't quite imagine young men doing. Yeah, it was different, mate.
Yeah. Maybe we divert to the rugby then. What was the rugby like?
Yeah, the rugby was good. We had a great little side, mate. You know what I mean? The only thing was we could never beat the Cardiff side because they were just that little bit better. But there was very little between us, And I mean, the quality was like Nicky Robinson, Robin Taylor. We also had a great side, Luke Charteris. Yeah, I can't remember everyone exactly, but there were two high quality young sides. You know what I mean? And we were definitely the best at our age in the youth setups, and that carried through to Welsh, because our setup back then with the clubs was so much better, I believe.
In what way?
Well, there was a structure to it, the youth teams, and then you went from youth up to the 21s, and that 21s was like a great stopgap between that and going into the senior team, because you had the clubs that were competing before the regions. And that under-21 league was real high standard, like all the Welsh under-19s boys were in there. And if the seniors were injured and had players coming back, they were able to play.
Yeah.
I think you were allowed 2 or 3 senior players in that youth setup. So like that, integration with some of those seniors players at a young age, at a high standard anyway, was a great developing tool. Certainly it helped me a tremendous amount.
Yeah,
and then obviously with Welsh under 21s, it was just a great initiation from like coming over here, Newport Youth, Wales under 19s, Newport under 21s for 2 years, Wales under 21s then, and then boom into the big bad the world then, with Newport, and then eventually the Dragons.
It seems to be a lot more expectation on an 18-year-old lad now than maybe there was then in that development piece.
Yeah, most definitely. And that's undeniable. Like, you only got to look at the way that they're in these academies. It's full time.
Yeah,
they're in the gym all the time.
Different to your day.
Yeah.
So massively. What do you think? What do you think's changed? Because I coach youth, so I see the 16 to 18 development, right?
Yeah,
I see it. And I understand it, and I love that age group, right? I love that age group because I was talking about it last night. It's from boys to men, right?
Yeah.
It's like they come in at 16, they leave at 18, they're like boys to men. In your eyes, though, what would you say that big difference is from when you played to where it is now? What is the big difference, you think?
For me, it's just, I think it sucked a little bit of life out of the game, a little bit of fun, It's so damn full on, it's so serious. I certainly would have enjoyed it. I wouldn't have been a success at this level because, all I wanted to do was to have fun. I just wanted to play the game I loved. I wanted to go and do what I did well on a Saturday.
Yeah.
I didn't really enjoy training. I certainly didn't enjoy fitness. So for me, it was just like, this training 4 or 5 days a week, up early in the morning to get in the gym before the seniors, training late at night because that's the only slot they got on the 3G. Bro, that wouldn't have been me.
No.
I mean, I don't think I would have been as successful as I was had it been in this era, for sure.
That's really interesting. There's a few people I talk to in that same boat that they look at where it was and where it is now, and the bit for me is that fun piece.
Yeah.
It's fun.
Yeah.
If you lose that fun, you lose the game, right?
It's not enjoyable, man.
No, and I think for me, again, last night I was going through it with the lads. We're going to play this season with smiles on our faces, right? It's not about the results. It's about going out and enjoying it. So this is the honest truth. I said, make as many mistakes as you want, right? Because they're young.
Yeah.
But the dad said, whoa, let's not teach them how to make mistakes. And I was like, wait there, mate, I'll talk to you later on because I'm not going to talk to you about that now.
Yeah.
But let them have some fun. They're young, right? So totally get it. But I think that there's a fine line between drinking culture and the drinking culture that was and where it is now.
It's changed.
It has changed.
It's cultural as well, I think. You're starting to see it coming through our young peoples anyway. I'm around the young people a lot because of my charity work with Tidy Belt, with we're in the education sector. We're in the alternative education sector. So I see firsthand people that are also struggling at that age, from the age of 16 to 19. So I'm getting an understanding of like, what are they doing? Why do they feel the way they feel? But also like, what are they tending to use as their exit, their escapes, their numbing? Quite intrigued by this situation we find ourselves in as a civilization. Most of them don't seem to be drinking nearly as much as we used to. And I even notice this now, when I'm going back to my old rugby clubs in Newport, like some of the youth boys, they can't have a full team bonding post-match because over half of them probably don't even attend because they don't drink. But a lot of them smoke weed, amongst other things. But that old alcohol type culture in our young people is slowly swinging, and is this like towards the end of generations of using it as their escape and their numbing technique through generational trauma or whatever you want to call it. Like at what point now are these young people actually had enough of it? And I think you're starting to see the beginning. A lot more like 0% alcohols, more people drinking less, but at the same time we connecting less too. It's a strange conundrum.
Where does it go?
I don't know, mate.
I'm in this, like, I love what you're just talking about, right? Because I'm in this. I got kids the same age. You got kids sort of similar ages. Where does it go?
Yeah, I think that we're in such a interesting stroke, terrifying part of huge societal change with technology, with social media. Although we now will be made to believe that we're more connected than ever because of the internet, because of social media, because of our phones. If we're honest, we've never been more disconnected. And we are isolated. We can't move away from the fact that in the UK, the biggest killer of men under 50 is suicide. I mean, that is a truly terrifying, absolutely terrifying statistic. We are entering a point now, our young people, it's the worst suicide rates for between 16 and 19-year-olds for over 35 years in this country. It's finding a way to reconnect, to recreate community. And how do we do that? And sport is such a great unifier, mate. But when we're trying to make things so damn serious all the time, do you know what I mean? And competition is great. It is great. Who doesn't love a good competition, right? It's finding the balance for me. Like, how do we find balance between fun and competition that at the end of the day, when the sport's all gone, we've still got those friendship groups, that we've still got that community, that we can belong, that we can feel seen, feel heard, feel held without prejudice, without judgment. Because ultimately that's why we're there. We are in these places of sports clubs or wherever because we're looking for that community. We're looking for people that we can feel belong in, feel like we are part of something. And if we don't have that, we're going to end up either in a pub, clubs, betting shops, or even worse, we're going to end up isolated, sat at home, just drinking, gambling, looking at our phones, all this kind of thing. And that's when the connection breaks down, and that's when we lose the value of community and togetherness.
Amen to that. I think it's on a pivotal time, mate. I really do. I share what you say. I love what you mentioned then about communities and appreciating communities.
Oh yeah.
I think there's a lot of people, using the word crack on. Like, you could sit there and say, I'm not playing tonight. But the reality is, if you just say yes and go and try, I bet you'll come home afterwards and say, I'm really glad I went to that session tonight. It's easy to say no.
100%.
Isn't it? So let's go back to the rugby slightly and then move it on.
Yeah.
So 7 caps.
Indeed.
For Wales. One question I want to ask, and I will always ask someone who's played for Wales, what was that first cap like?
I was on tour, so we were in Argentina. I came off the bench in the second test in Buenos Aires. Obviously, I was always gutted to be on the bench, right?
For the bomb, wasn't it?
I had Bomb ahead of me, Adam Jones, and Welsh legend. But
top bloke.
Obviously, and that's what you're going to be like as a top athlete. I genuinely believed I was better than him. So every time I got named on the bench, of course I was gutted, mate. Do you know what I mean? To say that I was happy for my first cap, I'd be lying. I wasn't happy. I came off the bench. I was pissed off. I had 15, 20 minutes probably. We lost. You know, I always struggled coming into the game off the bench anyway.
Yeah.
And then also, never mind that, because you came and played less than 20 minutes, you had to do conditioning at the end.
So those runs, those shot runs, isn't it?
The worst thing ever, mate. Like, I'm disappointed. I've played less than 20 minutes, and now I've got to do fitness. Like this. Oh,
so what is it? If you play less than a certain length of time, you've got to do these shuttles, haven't you?
Yeah, mate. It wasn't always at the end. Sometimes, obviously, we were away.
Yeah.
The conditioning wouldn't be post-match. It would be when you got back. So very often, and when I was involved, there was 23rd man because they won 2 props on the bench. Like, had that been the case, I mean, I would have sat on the bench with Bomb for years, probably, right?
Yeah.
And I would have racked up all the fees, all the caps, like coming off the bench, like late, you know, probably. But there was only ever 1 prop on the bench back then.
Right.
If we were away, we'd have to come back, you know, fly home or drive home, whatever it was. And then we'd land back into Cardiff, back on the bus, back to the Vale Hotel. And then when all the boys were going to their families, jumping in their cars, leaving, the conditioning coach was going, Rhys, in the barn.
Seriously?
And I'd be doing an hour's beast in on a Sunday on the back end of most probably what was a few beers the night before.
Yeah.
So I'd played like a handful of minutes. Got a beast in on a Sunday when everyone else is going in their cars. It made me bitter, mate. Honestly, it did. I used to call it 23rd man because I was 23rd man, and it used to break me because also like I was that extra prop that made a front row. I had to gear up. I had to have to do the live scrums pre-match, and then whilst everyone was singing the anthems, I was showering and putting my suit on for the game. Like
you do the beginning bit, and then
100%,
and
then get beasted on the Sunday morning.
Beasted on the Sunday,
right? I fell well out of love with rugby. Wow. I tell you.
How many times you have
I was
to do
there
that?
3.5 years. I was, you know, in that time I accumulated 7 caps, which isn't a tremendous amount, as you can imagine.
It's still 7 caps more than me.
No, proud. Of course I'm proud. But I'm just telling you, like my mindset at the time was, you know, so I was going on every trip, every tour, doing every warm up, all of that, right? Because there wasn't 2 props on the bench. I was 23rd man, and they always wanted a prop to cover.
Right.
So I was that guy, and that was meaning traveling with the team, doing the warm up, getting showered whilst they're singing the anthem. And then coming home on a Sunday when they're all going, I'm on the bus.
And then doing it in the barn.
It wore me down, mate, in the end. I just fell out of love of the game. I just thought, like, wow, I don't even want to really be... I don't want to do the 23rd man anymore.
Yeah, so what did you do about it?
I fought to want to become that starting prop, but the fact of the matter was, mate, Adam was a better scrummager than me. And that's the long and short. My description of my job was to offer a platform, especially the type of rugby Gats was playing.
Yeah.
And that meant that he wanted a strong scrum, and there's no denying Adam was a better scrummager than me. Undeniable. Was I a better rugby player? I believe I was. But was he a better scrummager? Yes. And what position were we? Prop. Probably the most important position, the tight end prop. So the scrum needs to be at its strongest at that point. And Adam was the better scrummager. So, of course, he got more game time than me. You know, but was I doing the extra work to try and improve myself? Not really, you know, but that was always my like Achilles heel, was that little bit of, you know, that laziness in me. Like, because I was so naturally gifted at the game I did, I hardly had to apply myself. Yeah. I didn't really want to over apply myself, and that's where I fell.
Is that reflection, or was that
a reflection?
Yeah,
you know,
at the time though, when you were going through it, what did you know? Would you have ever had those thoughts?
Nah, I mean, no, because I thought I was the best. The reality was I needed to work harder. Hard work beats talent when talent fails to work hard. I heard that after I finished, and I thought that's a bloody good summary of my professional rugby career, really.
Right. When's that come to light then in your head? As in, is that something that you thought?
Oh, it's definitely post-career, mate.
Yeah.
I mean, I wouldn't have admitted it.
Yeah.
I mean, it took me a while to be able to be humble enough
of course.
to admit that was the truth.
But. Yeah. And we're going to talk about being humble in a bit.
Yeah.
Like, for me, that's something I've just learned. I didn't realise you get beasted when you land on the ground. I thought it was just get on the car and go home, right?
Yeah.
I knew there was beastings after the game.
Yeah.
So I spoke to Shanks and other guys that's the bit that you always hated. Get 20 minutes off the bench, you know you're going to get beasted after.
Yeah.
But get landing and having to do that's like another level.
Yeah, it was gross.
Yeah. I bet it really did, you know, like I say, it's enough to pull you off the game, right?
Yeah, honestly, when I got left out of the squad, I was almost to some point kind of relieved. I was like, yeah, I'm just going to crack on now, move to the Scarlets. I want to come back. I was hoping Gats would move on, so that like a new coach, new blood, and then I would just work on my game, and then when that change hopefully came, that I would be back, but at this time in the driving seat. Ironically, I probably played my best rugby of my life the year I had my heart attack.
Well, in Scarlets?
I mean? Yeah.
So let's go to the Scarlets, because you're...
2012.
Yeah, highly regarded down the Scarlets. They speak really highly of you.
Yeah.
You know, they love Rhys. So talk us about the move down there, and talk us about, you've mentioned the heart attack. Go through that.
Yeah, so moved there midway through 2009, left the Dragons, went down there on a very decent contract with a little bit of expectation, which, you know, I was happy to be leaving the Dragons as well at the time. They were so amazing. My time at the Dragons was incredible. You know, I was a Newport boy. I still, to this day, live in Newport. To leave wasn't something I wanted to do, but the club had no ambition. They weren't retaining any of their players. It was run poorly. It was time for me to move on, you know. I felt that was time. Gareth Jenkins, who was just a wonderful human, really showed that he wanted me down there. And you know, Phil Davies before him too also. So, you know, I went down there. And for me, it was beautiful, because in a way, what I loved about the Scarlets was that they had carried the tradition of the Lethe club team into their region, whereas the Dragons hadn't done that. They kind of started over from scratch and almost like wrote off their history. And coming from the kind of school that I went to, like, it's all about the history, you know, like, to wear the jersey, what does it mean to you? Like, the players that had come before, the struggles of that area, the culture, all that kind of stuff I loved. And it was the net, it was bathed in it, you know. Yeah. And the players were there, you know, like Phil was in the Phil Bennett suite, and like all these other Cornell suites, and pictures of the players on the walls, and they all captains, and it was just there, man. And I moved there and I was like, because I'd fallen out of love with the game at this point.
Yeah,
right? I'd left Wales.
Yeah.
My attitude was wrong off the pitch. My life was a little bit chaotic.
Yeah.
You know, getting pissed up too much. My social life was out of control somewhat. And when I say that, I don't mean like I was drinking 7 days a week. I mean like I was going out after a match, but like all bets were off. What could happen, mate? Do you know what I mean? Anything could happen.
You don't know what time you're coming back and when.
Yeah, and it was definitely, if I was playing on a Friday, I was drinking Friday, Saturday, Sunday.
Yeah.
Like that's what I meant. I never kept beer in the fridge in the house. None of that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But yeah, when I went to the Scarlets, like I had fallen out of love with the game completely.
Where was your mental state then?
I was glad to be leaving the Dragons. I got over not being in the Welsh squad, and I was like, right, I'm just going to take some time, like get into the swing of it down here. But I had a lot of growing up to do, mate. I was still so damn immature, and unfortunately, I made a couple of really terrible, irrational decisions. Like I doing a box jump when the conditioner told me not to, and I split my knee, and I missed like 2 weeks of the beginning of the season. And that year, because I left the Dragons, moved to Scarlets, I wrote it into my contract that I would have X amount of weeks off with my wedding. I was going on a stag do and all this kind of stuff. And my conditioning coach, like, he was so pissed that they wrote it into my contract. Because I needed that conditioning, mate. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, of course.
And I remember I turned back up after 6 weeks off, being in SA. I'd done no training, mate. Nothing. Zero.
Yeah, that's it.
And I turned up in not great nick, you know. Obviously, you can imagine.
Yeah, of course.
Stag do's, weddings,
right.
honeymoons.
Yeah.
I came back, I was way off pace.
Yeah.
And I was literally within a matter of weeks of the season starting. So, like, and then top that off, I did the box jump, split my knee. So I was not the flavour of the month. I actually got a written warning. Yeah. It gave them opportunity to beast me. So, in a way, it probably served me a little bit.
Yeah.
And then when I came back, I think it was the very game I came back was against Breve at Parky Scarlets in the
not a small
Cup
game,
or whatever. Yeah, and I came off the bench for Deacon Manu, and I ruptured my plantar plate under my big toe. I literally thought my whole toe was off in my boot.
Right.
Like I lay on the ground after the scrum, and I said to my physio, I said, I don't want to look. I said, pull my boot off. I'm telling you, my toe is off. It's off.
Wow.
And they pulled it off, and I looked down, and I was like, oh, it's still there. It's still there. That's a bonus. That's a bonus.
We'll take that.
So I genuinely ran from that point. I ran up top because we had taken the ball up to the try line, and I scored a try. And I was doing my old John Cena celebration I used to do, but I couldn't run. I was like running on the outside of my foot, and I thought, I hope it's all right.
Yeah.
That was a 6-monther, mate. Huge op. I had box jump, so missed all pre-season, box jump, out for 2 weeks, written warning, Came back, first game back, breathe, ruptured my plantar plate, out for 6 months. So the first season, just left, big contract. It wasn't well received. Anyway, I came back, end of season. My toe was not in a good place, mate. It was a nightmare. I'm a prop. All my weight's going through there. Yeah. Even when I was recovering, it was just awful.
Even after the 6 months?
Yeah, it didn't matter.
Was it?
It was so tight. I was wearing a carbon fibre plate in it to stop my boot bending.
Wow.
I had not great ankle flexibility, so I was struggling to get the studs in the ground. I was not putting a lot of weight through my foot, and I'm a prop. Yeah. I'm a tired prop. All my weight's coming through my right leg. Yeah. So
what was going through your mind then after that 6 month period of coming back?
I thought I was going to have to jack it, mate.
Is it?
Yeah, I really thought that was the end. I thought I'm not going to be able to overcome this injury. Yeah. So that season came. I needed that time off to recover my toe, and then I was going to really give it a good go that preseason. So second preseason, I really invested in it. My toe wasn't great. I was having injections in the joint to try and offload some of that pain that I was having. And
it's like cortisone, is it?
Yeah, cortisone. But there's also like this fluid they were putting in my joint.
All right.
I can't remember what it was called now. Do it under ultrasound, and they would fill it. It used to feel hanging. My whole foot used to feel like full.
Right.
I had foot insoles and carbon fibre plates so that my boot didn't bend, and I changed my boots and all these kinds of things just to try and make it a little better,
Yeah.
And had a great preseason, was feeling more confident about it, was in good shape. And then, unfortunately, just for the very first game before the first game of the season, it was one of my best friend's sister's wedding.
Right.
And it was on bank holiday. And obviously, rugby players, we don't get bank holidays off.
Yeah.
But it was on a Sunday, right? I'd been out on the Saturday night, and then I thought, right, no drinking tonight. Unfortunately, that didn't follow through.
Yeah.
I stayed up to the wee hours. Ended up
game the next day.
First match week, so the training starting on the Monday for the first match game on the Saturday, right? League game. Not friendlies are done. I end up going down to training. I'm smashed. Right? I'm smashed. I'm trying to hide from everyone. I haven't brought any kit in. I've asked one of the boys in my lift club to bring me the kit in.
Right.
I'm stinking, mate. I literally smell like a brewery. I've got an entire tube of chewing gums in my mouth. I've sprayed stuff on me. I'm washing my hair, my face. Like, I got new kit on. I'm in the gym, exercise on the bike, and like the conditioning coach just walks behind and goes, like, who stinks of booze? Brad was an Aussie, right? Yeah. And I was just like chewing my gum, trying to ignore what was happening. Yeah. And then he just obviously walked around until he come and smelt me, and then he was just fuming, and he was like, right, get to the office. And then I had a meeting in the office with all the coaches. Matthew Rhys was in there as well. I couldn't even speak, mate. Honestly, I was literally dribbling. And
what do you mean, drunk or just upset?
Smashed, pissed.
Right.
They were like, oh mate, just listen, just go home, go home. And I was like, nightmare. And they didn't even call me back for about 2 weeks, and I thought, oh man, they're gonna sack me on,
So no contact at all, or you?
Nah.
No.
And I thought they're gonna do me on whatever. They can sack me.
Yeah.
Just my behaviour's not good enough, whatever. And then they did, and then they gave me my written warning then. And it took me again ages to get back in the side, because Deeks was starting, and I'd broken their trust and all that kind of stuff, right? Rightfully so. And literally the first game back, again, this time was in Europe, like the time before was with Breve.
Yeah.
And we were playing Leicester at Welford Road, and started the game really well. And then I actually broke my tib on Castro Giovanni's shin.
No way.
Yeah, so that was it. Broken leg I was out for 4 months. Took me about a month to get back up and running with conditioning. So again, missed the majority of my second season now. It was just a disaster, mate. It was a disastrous first 2 years, right? It was a lot of karma, mate, for me.
Yeah.
There was a lot of karma coming through at this point in my career. And
that's reflection as well, right?
Oh yeah, massively. Just off the field, mate. Just life was nowhere. I didn't have goals. I didn't have ambitions. I didn't have a plan. Just wild. I was just running on this crazy energy, do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, no plan, no focus. And
even with the rugby you had,
yeah.
life itself didn't have any focus or goal.
I was on a lot of money.
Yeah.
I was living in a flush house. I had a couple of houses, driving a nice car, did more money than I wished to know what to do with.
Yeah.
My life was great. I had a lovely family. I was going away whenever I wanted, amazing holidays. So I just thought everything was okay. Yeah, you know, I was an idiot. I was making terrible decisions, but like sooner or later, I was going to figure it out.
Yeah.
And that's what I did, you know, like in my last year of contract, I was like, right, I'm gonna pull back on the boozing. I'm going to pull back on the smoking. I was smoking to like 10 fags a day, right? Yeah. So like, let's just invest, you know, back in myself.
Yeah.
And I did, mate. And I was literally flying, mate. Honestly, probably had one of the best seasons of my life.
And the question on that, is that because you felt you owed it to the club or to yourself?
No, to myself.
To yourself.
Because I wanted to repay the fans. Because, I mean, they were pissed off. They were, like, saying shit to me when I was going around. You know, like, if you weren't playing part of the squad, you were walking around the pitch doing stuff and signing stuff and going in the supporters thing in the barn and down Parky Scarlet's pre-match. And the people were like, they were calling me, you want a waste of money. And I was, mate. Do you know what I mean? Really. And I thought, I'm going to repay this. But also for myself, I'm out of contract. My last year of contract. Yeah. Like, I want to go over to France and I want to live abroad. But I also want to put a performance in and see if I can get back in the mix with Wales.
Yeah, yeah.
And I did, man. I was absolutely flying 2012. Flying.
Yeah.
And then, then...
How many games in?
I'd say midway through season, yeah.
So you've been playing well till then?
Playing great, mate. Literally, at January 26, 2012, in the gym, on the interval session, on a bike. And then, bang, massive heart attack.
Wow.
Rush to the Morriston Hospital, quadruple bypass, and career over.
So
just like that.
Well, on the bike, just literally keeled over?
Yeah, I didn't even keel over, mate. I walked across the gym. I knew I'd had a heart attack.
Right.
I had about 5 minutes left on my bike, completely like out of it. I couldn't see. I had this huge pain in my chest. Like I was stumbling across the gym. I told my physio, I opened the door. I was like, Pat, I'm having a heart attack. Literally stumbled back down the hall because I didn't want the boys to see me. Like, do you know what I mean? All that pride and ego. No, don't show weakness. Even now, I knew I was having a heart attack because I'd had a small one before in 2005, right? So I thought, the pain wasn't much worse than the time before. I'll be okay, you know. Just go and live it out the way here. Yeah. So I was just lay on the deck. I was struggling to breathe. I was sweating bullets. Like my whole left hand gone like Spider-Man. They ploughed me full of aspirin. The ambulance arrived. They chucked me in the van straight up to the Morrison, straight on the slab. And that's when they put this like thing called an angiogram. It's like a cannula, in your artery, and then they push it up your arm. And you're fully conscious. And you could feel it go across your chest. And then there's this like X-ray machine above you. And to your left, there's like this TV screen. And then they inject a dye. And you can literally see your heart beating. And then they put this another cable in through my groin to look up from the other side. And there's a TV at the bottom of my feet. And then it looked like you could see my vein and my artery. I can't remember which one. Yeah. And there's a camera going up it. So they're trying to get to the clot. Yeah. That's in my heart because I had a spontaneous dissection, which was a clot in my heart.
Right, and that's what stopped. That's what.
And then that's what the pain was the clotting of stopping the blood reaching my heart.
Yeah.
So obviously my pain was just intensifying, and I'm like just speaking to the doctor. I'm like, listen, you know, how much longer have I got, and you know, am I going to play again? You know, how long am I going to be out for? And like he wasn't speaking or anything like that, and then all of a sudden I could just see him panicking. I could see like the panic on their face, and my pain just like doubled down. Right. And I was really I was wriggling on the table. Like I was really struggling the pain was becoming quite unbearable. Yeah. And my breathing was shallowing. And they were like, we need to take you straight in for a bypass. And I didn't even know what that was. I was like, just do what you got to do. As long as I'm back, I'm cool. And they put me on another trolley, ushered me straight into another anaesthetist room. And there my ex-wife was and my ex-father-in-law. Yeah, as soon as I saw them, I broke down, mate. Do you know what I mean? Just cried my eyes out. I was super scared. I told them, kissed my wife. I told her to tell the kids I loved them. And January 26, 2012, in the gym, on the interval session, on a bike. And then, bang, massive heart attack. Wow. Rushed to the Morriston Hospital. So obviously my pain was just intensifying. And I'm like, just speaking to the doctor. I'm like, listen, you know, how much longer have I got? And you know, how long am I going to be out for? And like he wasn't speaking or anything like that. And then all of a sudden I could just see him panicking. I could see like the panic on their face, and my pain just like doubled down. Right. And I was really I was wriggling on the table. Like I was really struggling the pain was becoming quite unbearable. Yeah. And my breathing was shallowing. And they were like, we need to take you straight in for a bypass. The doctor said when they opened my chest that my heart was in such a shit state, he didn't think I was going to make the operation. He said I had that many clots in my veins that he was pulling them out with his fingers.
Yeah.
So I had a quadruple bypass, but my heart was so unwell that they had to put this balloon up my groin and inflate it next to the heart, so that it would take the pressure off the heart beating. I wasn't allowed to sit upright for 5 days. So I'm so disorientated, mate. I'm lost. I've got this severe anxiety out of nowhere.
Yeah.
I can't close my eyes because this light comes in and I start to like breathe like this, like I'm having a panic attack, but I didn't know what a panic attack was. And I'm obviously on all these different types of drugs, and I'm just like, I'm scared. I just want to see my kids. I'm looking for my wife. She was there by my side, but it was terrifying. It was terrifying. And eventually I got out of there about a week later, and all the drugs started to wear off, and I was struggling so terrible with panic attacks and anxiety. I couldn't sleep, mate. I literally couldn't close my eyes.
Worried that something would happen, or just
no?
not
I
being
don't
able to
know.
sleep,
No, I wasn't even worried. I just couldn't do it. And
Right.
I said, "What is this?" And they said, "Yeah, sometimes post-operation, people can have panic attacks or have severe anxiety just from what I know now as trauma. You know, what the mind even can't comprehend. The body keeps the score. The body doesn't forget.
Yeah.
The body experiences these traumas in real time. But just because we're on general anesthetic, we think that we can't recall the actual operation, whereas the body has not forgot anything.
The body keeps the score.
The body literally keeps the score, mate. So but I had no understanding between mind, body, soul connection at this point in my life. It was just like, what's wrong with me? Why can't I sleep? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, of course.
I'm alive. Like, why can't I just chill? And,
Let me close my
just
eyes
go
and
to sleep.
bed.
I'm knackered.
Yeah.
Like, I haven't slept for 5-6 days. In the end, I didn't know what else to do. Like, I was going delirious, mate. I hadn't slept. I had to go see a psychologist. Just did some breath work with them. Literally did 2 sessions. They gave me some very basic breath techniques to moderate my anxiety, which allowed me enough to sleep. And obviously, I couldn't lie flat at this point because I couldn't breathe. My heart just
So you were upright?
Yeah, so I was sleeping upright, which was awful. In a chair I borrowed from the Red Cross, which was, big shout out to them for that. As it began to wear off and my situation started to stabilise somewhat, I realised that my career was gone. And, honestly, mate, I was absolutely horrendously devastated.
Yeah, I bet you were.
And not only that, though, now, mate, I was disabled. And I couldn't even walk 10 metres without stopping 3 times. And I've been severely out of breath. And the doctors were like, yeah, it may improve, it may not. 18 months later, my breath hadn't got any better. But now what was that physical battle became a huge mental battle. As my physical health deteriorated, my mental health was going the exact same way the whole time.
And with that, I suppose there's an identity piece as well, isn't it?
100%.
Because I read the quote that you had from the Scarlets thanking them for their support. But one thing you did say was that rugby's been my life and I'm not playing it anymore. Right. So what was that like?
Yeah, I mean, it was so hard, mate. If I just navigate through this part and say, obviously my health deteriorated so badly that I had a machine implanted in my heart in 2014, which still runs me to this day, right?
Which is there now, huh?
Yeah, it's in my bag. It's called a left ventricular assist device. Over the space of those 2 years, right, this is where the identity really hits home. Career ends 2012, quadruple bypass, physical health downhill, mental health starts to go downhill with it.
Yeah.
Got given 12 months to live in 2013. My only option was to have this machine. I had the machine then in 2014. So lucky to survive the op. I was in a coma for 2 weeks post-op.
Yeah.
I woke up from this coma. I'd been in the most horrific nightmares for 2 weeks. When I woke up, I just wanted to speak to my wife. I was trying to speak to make sure I was in reality, not in these god-awful nightmares I've been having for 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Because I'd been in a coma, I'd had a tracheotomy and I'd had the life support was down my esophagus. So when first words I tried to speak to my wife, my mouth was moving, but no words were coming out. Because the air was coming out of my throat, my esophagus. Mate, it was one of the most terrifying experiences of my life. And the nurse was trying to stand in front of me and saying, cover your throat. And so I was covering my throat and trying to speak like that. It was horrendous, mate, right? That took me about a month to get out of hospital after that because I just wanted to get home. I had huge muscle atrophy in the legs. So I had to really learn how to walk, learn how to operate this machine because I know I'm half man, half machine, literally. These batteries last 8 hours a set, lithium batteries. After 8 hours, if I don't change them, they'll beep for 15 minutes.
And that's still the same
Still
now?
the same now.
8-hour cycle?
8-hour cycle. And after 15 minutes, if I don't have a new set of batteries nearby, the machine can stop, my heart can stop, and I can literally die like that. So I'm having to learn now, in 2 years, career over, disabled, loss of identity, loss of purpose, run by a machine. The doctors can't tell me how long it's going to last. The batteries last 8 hours a set. If I don't change them after 8 hours, I can die. You can imagine, mate. I'm a 30-year-old man.
Yeah.
I don't know whether I'm coming or going. I got no life skills that has prepared me for this situation. The only life skill I've got that was with me at this point was resilience. I was going to fight all day long to stay alive. Do you know what I mean? I had a young family.
I was going to ask the why.
I had great friends. And my why all day is my kids, right? And my family and friends, of course, and for more recently myself. But overcoming that and that identity crisis was huge. Right? Those next 7 years, because it was 7 years, from 2012 to 2019, I went on the wildest and the most deeply saddening, self-destructive journey. No identity. No why, no purpose, so much darkness. To the point where I, unfortunately, was an alcoholic then.
I remember seeing you at a party, and I was serving you. You were in a state, right? You were in a state. You were pretty drunk at the time. Talk us through those 7 years. Where did the alcohol come in?
I didn't know how to deal with my situation, mate. Obviously, as well as that, physically, I was broken. So, I was broken mentally, emotionally, physically. And spiritually, it wasn't even a thing, right? I wasn't even connected at all.
Yeah.
So on those three factors alone, mental, emotional, physical, I was broken. Physically, not only now have I lost my career, lost my identity, I can't go for a run. I can't go to the gym and lift weights. I can't go for a swim. I can't go on a bike. All of a sudden, mate, all I started to do was just sit around, watching telly. But all of a sudden, my mind's going 100 miles an hour. And the more I'm living from the chin up, the more darkness there is. The more I'm living in the past, thinking about shame, remorse, guilt. But at the same time, I'm in the head thinking about where's the positive future. There's nothing positive. There's nothing positive about my life right now because I couldn't see it. So all this was just constantly stuck in my head thinking about the past and the future. I couldn't deal with it. And that was, for me, the only thing I could do was to escape. And my mode of escape was alcohol. And I've always had an awful relationship with alcohol my whole life. I was, society from a young age, watching my parents, my whole family, how I drank is with my friends, with the rugby. Everything was just, who can get the drunkest? And it was almost okay. It's fine. Alcohol. Yeah, you were drunk. It's fine. It really sucks the essence out of you, this very spirit. I didn't know how to deal with that situation. So my mode of escape, because that's what I needed to do, I couldn't be in my head. I was too negative, I had a family. I had beautiful kids. I had a wonderful wife. I had great friends. My family were I had everything. I had a great support network, mate. But I didn't want anyone's help. In my head, the darkness was too deep.
Yeah.
I just wanted to escape it. And that escape was alcohol. And unfortunately, between 2016 and 2019, even on a heart transplant waiting list, even with this machine that ran my heart, with the threat of if I didn't plug in after 8 hours, I could die.
Yeah.
One enough, mate.
That still wasn't enough.
One enough. And I would go out, mate, and because of the state of my heart, I had a fluid restriction. In a whole day, only 2.5 litres of fluid, any fluid. So from the moment I opened my eyes, glass of water, a cup of tea.
2 litres a day?
2.5, yeah.
2.5.
So, but slowly over time, at the worst things got mentally, it went from, skipping the glass of water, the cup of tea, going from pints, which was 500ml for a pint, to a bottle of gin.
Shorts.
Wine. Finding different ways. But obviously then just getting so hammered because I was trying to fill a void, mate. Yeah. You know what I mean? And no matter how big that void got and no matter how much I poured alcohol into it, I just couldn't fill it.
Did anyone ever talk to?
Oh, mate, loads of people.
Yeah.
Loads and loads and loads of people try to help me, try to tell me, come on, buddy, let's go, speak to a psychologist. And especially my wife. My wife begged me to speak to her, speak to a friend, speak to me, speak to a psychologist. Try this doctor, try that doctor. Didn't want anyone, mate. My go-to was, I'm fine. That was all I used to say. No, I'm fine.
Why do you think you didn't need anyone?
Because I just thought I'd find a way on my own. And at the time, I thought it was alcohol.
How many other people do you think are out there in the same boat?
Oh, millions. Literally millions.
Just think they can do it themselves.
What I would say to them is that I only thought there was a certain amount of ways that I could receive help. And for me, receiving help through talk and therapy wasn't helpful for me. It wasn't helpful. But now that I know what I know, there is so many different types of help and different techniques that were of immense help to me that I had no idea about at the time that are life-changing. And that can be from things like brotherhood, from a sharing circle, different types of organizations, AA, CA, any types of circles really, from different types of therapy, NLP, EMDR, equine therapy, cold water therapy, breath work, any type of somatic type of practice, yoga, tai chi, qigong. As well as that, we've got plant medicines, right? We've got this new psychedelic wave that you've seen help so much with severe depression, severe PTSD, different types of psychedelics and plant medicines like ibogu, like psilocybin, like MDMA. All these things are having incredible results to help in our state of minds, but also the reliance on SSRIs, on these antidepressants, antipsychotics. Are they helping, actually? In some cases, they are helpful.
Yeah.
But in the majority, are they helping? What are you complementing that medicine with to help aid you through the struggles that you're experiencing? Because if we're not going back to the root problem of where your trauma is from, and we're just putting plasters on things all the time, are we helping? Or are we just maintaining and staying in the same place?
The bit that I'm really intrigued with, you said you got deeper and deeper. You've got to hit rock bottom to get humility, right? So talk us through, I got a date, says September 1st, right? So talk us through that rock bottom moment.
I know, it's close as well, right?
Close.
That's about, 9 days away? So,
anniversary, right?
It is my second birthday, mate.
I bet.
At the end of what was probably the most awful 3 years of my life, being an alcoholic and absolute destruction that it brought to everything and everyone in my life. Eventually, I crashed my car drunk on the 1st of September 2019, and the events that followed that evening were enough for me to know that, I had a very big problem and that things were going to need to change. I didn't quite realize how big my problem was. Thankfully, with the help of my ex-wife, my dad, my brother, and 3 of my best friends from boarding school, they staged an intervention whilst I was on a family holiday. And they sent me to a rehab facility in Cape Town. So I didn't want to go. I actually argued at length about going. And then I came to the agreement that I would literally go for like a couple of days. No, mate, I walked through those doors. I was there for a month. It was genuinely the most life-changing, most incredible experience. It was so hard, I can't even put it in words, just being around all addicts of every description, from crystal meth, crack, heroin, cocaine, alcohol.
Still in a bit of denial with that though, because I suppose you being put in the same place as people that have got that sort of addiction, what was that feeling like?
Mate, we were all exactly the same. And that was the biggest teaching for me, that no matter what age, race, sex or creed any of those people were, they were just human beings, mate. They were just suffering from one trauma or another, but just dealing with things the best way we knew how. It was just generational trauma, what we had learned from our parents, grandparents, carers, whoever our primary caregivers were, the experiences that we had had through our lives, and no matter what size that trauma was, small t, big T trauma, and then how we were dealing with that. And most of us in that house were dealing with things, how we had learned to deal with things, or finding new ways of numbing, escaping. It was profound, mate, the lessons I learned in that house. The greatest lesson that I learned was about fear, vulnerability, and ultimately humbling myself. It was incredible, mate. group and one-to-one therapy really just opened the portal for change. I had an awakening of some sort in there, mate. It's hard to even put into words, but a lot was to do around the vulnerability of it. To be in a share circle with strangers talking about your deepest, darkest stuff you'd been through in your life, those lies and secrets from your past, and begin to address them, but understand them, and also understand about like how the human mind works, you know, how trauma works, how we operate as human beings. You know, we've made mistakes, there's no rectifying that, but we can begin to make change, and we can make amends where we can by apologizing. You know, we can't change the past. There's no rewinding and changing the past.
Do you have to apologise to a lot of people?
Yeah, I apologise to quite a lot of people. Well, tremendous amount of people. You know, it's just about accepting. That was a big part of it, was accepting the past. Yeah, I can't change it. So I'm going to have to accept it. But how can I accept it? What can I do to bring about genuine change? And for me, the word sorry, mate, meant nothing. Meant nothing. I had used the word sorry millions of times in my life, and they were the most hollow, empty words. I didn't even like to say the word because it didn't mean anything.
Yeah,
where it carried no weight with me
because
I'd broken what the value of that word meant to my kids, to my ex-wife, to my friends, to my family. I didn't even like saying it. So
I was going to say, what was your relationship like with that word sorry? But
terrible.
Yeah.
Because I didn't like even saying it because I just felt weak because I was weak. But the difference was this time was I did things the right way. I had a why, which was my kids, which was me.
Yeah.
I had a purpose. I wanted to be a better man. I wanted to share my story with others. And then from that, then I also knew, like, how do I build a better life where I don't have regret, shame, or remorse from the past. I've lived this way without integrity, without honor, you know, without values, you know, and I had my ex-wife was a wonderful human being, and I didn't value that. She didn't get the treatment she deserved. And for me, I didn't want to ever make that mistake again, you know?
Yeah.
So for me, it was building a foundation, this time built on integrity, built on structure of values, so that I never had to worry about the past because there was nothing ever in my closet. No, I've accepted the past. I've made the changes that were necessary by challenging myself to be a better person all the time. And it's not easy, you know. You got to make mistakes, John. You got to make mistakes.
Yeah.
But being able to make amends where you can, and just doing the work on yourself, right? However that looks. And I was open-minded to try everything. And I did. I mean, the amount of therapies, the amount of work I've done on myself was profound. And it's never ending because I just love doing it because it never ends.
Do people have to hit rock bottom to learn?
I mean...
Lots of people say
I
to
hope
me...
not.
Yeah, a lot of people say to me, how'd you give it booze? And I did have to... That's where we got mutual, right? I did have to hit that rock bottom.
Yeah.
I did have to wake up in hospital,
Yeah.
right, next to my sister and understand that I could have choked to death.
Yeah.
And that was it. But the 3 times previous to that wasn't enough. Whereas that 4th one did it because it was my life on the line and I got 3 kids and a wife, right? So do people need to?
Everyone's journey is their own, mate, you know, and what is rock bottom, really? Is it just the world trying to show you that you're going in the wrong direction? Because my rock bottom was the greatest gift. It truly was. It genuinely pulled me from a life of dishonesty, of destruction, of no integrity, of no authenticity. That turning point for me was the beginning of monumental change in every aspect of my life. And I'm so grateful for all of it. My heart attacks, my crash, my ex-wife, what a great teacher she was. Everything she did was from a place of love. And leaving me was possibly the greatest act of love she ever did for me, you know.
Wow, that's so powerful.
You know, and it's hard. It does. It hurts. You know, I've had to do a lot of work around the guilt of that. It took me a long time, 3.5 years. I've made peace with it. It's not easy, and it's ongoing, but I'm in a much better place. But it comes with the consistency too, of being a person who's there for my family, for my children, for myself, for my partner. But ultimately, I think suffering is a wonderful teacher. It is a wonderful teacher, mate. It's just understanding that life is worth living. It is the most spectacular, most wonderful, most tremendous gift we can have. Part of the fabric is the suffering. But within that, I believe it's the authenticity that lies within us that when we betray it, leads us down a path of suffering. And that is from conditioning, from programming, and all these other things that we learn from trauma, from the experiences that we have, from the education we receive, from generational trauma. It's very complex, but ultimately the decisions and the changes that we make, when we make them from a place of authenticity, and we begin to live from that place, when we find out who we truly are, like the identity piece behind it, like who am I? Because that was the penny drop moment for me. When that was the question I asked.
Who are you?
Yeah. Who is Rhys Thomas? I'm just a man who's going through life just so grateful for every day, every second, every moment that I get to experience life, and who I encounter, the mistakes I make, the lessons I learn, the beauty of it, of everything in it, the failure, the success, the goal setting. It's just beautiful, mate.
And you can hear it, right? You can feel it.
Yeah.
You can feel it.
It's love.
It is, mate.
At the essence of all of it is love. And that's what I have, and I see it in everything now, And I'm just so grateful.
From that day of going into rehab to where you are now, talk us through the difference in you and the steps you took to sort of, we do small things every day, it accumulates, it compounds, it does, and I've found that massively over the 10 years I've given up booze. But also my realisation, where's that for you? Where have you come from there to now, and give us the steps?
Yeah. The more I learn, the less I know. That mindset for me, because I used to be a bit of a know-it-all. Like, I know a lot about nothing. Too overconfident. Life has humbled me. It's not to say that there's times when I couldn't be more humble, or there's always learnings in everything, right? It was just being very open-minded, John. Always looking for progress in every part of my life. How can I be a better partner? How can I be a better father? How can I learn more about breath work? How can I become a better speaker? For me, it's about the little things in life, and investing into those, however that investment looks to you. But finding something that speaks to you. Like, what is it? What is your passion? Like, who are you? What is your passion? And why do you do it? And go out and go and find that. However that looks. For me, I'm 40 years old, and I found breath work. At the end of what had been a tremendous amount of work I'd done on myself, stumbled across this ancient and beautiful practice that I used in a situation that released so much locked in like trauma in the body, and all the therapies and different stuff I'd done. This was just different, and I went in, and I just released so much for me, and I was just like, oh my God, like what is this? What the hell is this? I said, and I was just breathing. I was breathing, I was guided, and I was just super present, and then my body literally healed itself in some way, shape or form. And I was just like, all right, now I've just got to do the work with this. And the breakthroughs were profound. And I was just like, oh my God, I need to obviously integrate this experience, because there's these emotions I need to I have in my body, obviously, that I didn't know about that I even had. It was like my blind spot. But just being super present with the breath, using a certain technique, enabled that transformation. And I was like, right, I need to learn this, you know. And there you go. I was straight into breathwork, and I've qualified conscious connected breathwork practitioner. I just love it, mate. I'm so passionate about it because I truly believe it has huge ability for transformation, for overall health, for self-regulation, for helping our nervous systems, our communication, our relationships. Like it is an immense bit of work. I invite anyone to really look into it because it's beautiful.
A question on that: when you were addicted, say that alcoholism, fill in the gap. Do you feel you filled that gap now because they say with the addiction you've got to have something else that you become addicted to, right? Because there's an addictive personality, right? That's what I had, what I've got. Do you feel you've got that place now with the breathing side of it?
Yeah, so
I think it's filled that gap.
For me, it was being comfortable sitting in the stillness, because there was always something in me that was I was a bit restless.
Yeah,
there was something, there was always something there. But what was that something? For me, it was that exploration into that, what that feeling was. Fear, rejection, confrontation, judgment, all those different types of fears of what the person that I had believed that I had, who I was, that like image I had had of myself, and then going through back to the root, to that inner child, to Rhys, little Rhys, and beginning from there and rebuilding. It was a rebuild project. It was the best rebuild project ever. But this time, mind, body, soul, connection, being more present, feeling my way through life. Not always be living from the chin up, being in the body, being able to be in the moment and make decisions that are heart-led from a place of love, not from the mind,
Love that. Love that. So, what's next? Where are you going? What's going on? Talk us through what's next for you. Because that's a journey, right?
Yeah, so I'm on the heart transplant waiting list, mate. But yeah, just waiting. So, I could get a phone call right now. But ultimately, it's going to have to happen sooner or later. I've tried so much to heal my own organ. Could I have tried more? Absolutely. Like I know Dr. Joe Dispenza talks a lot about how we can, heal ourselves. And I do believe in it. I really do. I have tried a lot, and the gains I've had, albeit I've noticed them, my endurance, my physical body, there is massive improvements, I think. But when I have the scans and such, it doesn't show. So, but ultimately, it looks like I'm going to have the op. So if the likelihood is if I don't have it by February, I'm probably going to look to potentially, it's not a guarantee, this is still up in the air, but maybe moving back to South Africa and go on to their transplant list in Cape Town. Now, I would have to live there full time and while I wait for that organ. Yeah, so there is still that. I've been on this machine, I've lived with this machine now on the 2nd of September this will be my 9th year.
So Cape Town wise just gives you a better chance?
The lists work slightly differently there.
Okay.
We've got 3 lists in the UK. Like a normal hot transplant list, the urgent list, and a super urgent.
Right.
And you only move up that list the sicker you get.
Right, okay.
So because I've got this machine, I'm actually classed as not ill.
Right.
And to look at me, I don't maybe look ill, but obviously I've had this machine 9 years.
Yeah.
The longest anyone's ever survived on this model of machine is 11.
Right.
My only worry, I would say, is that it gets to 11 years and then the machine goes, because when the machine goes downhill, it's rapid.
Right.
And then I may not be able to be transplantable like I was before. Then putting another one of these machines in, they said, is not possible.
Right.
So I just wish to not get to that point whereby I'm left with that situation where they aren't able to implant a new machine. I'm not transplantable, and I didn't have it done in the time that I could have.
Yeah.
And then ultimately, I don't, stay in this realm, which, is what it is. And the other side will be blissful and wonderful, I have no doubt. But,
You thought about that?
Yeah, I mean, I have to. I have to make peace with it, John.
Yes, yeah.
You know, I lived on that sidewalk, just constantly worrying about dying. But I can't. I don't do that anymore. You know, not to say that I don't get the odd day, because I do.
Yeah.
You know, thinking about those decisions is like between a rock and a hard place. Do you know what I mean? But ultimately, like for me to operate from day to day, I have to have made peace with death. Thankfully for me, spirit, source, creator, God, whatever you want to call it, that's where the benefit comes in for me there. My practices, you know, praying, meditating, breath work, all these types of things are of huge benefit for creating stillness in the mind, for making peace with death.
And that's what you mean by connecting from neck down as opposed to neck up.
100%, mate.
Yeah.
You know, that mind, body, soul connection for me is now so important. When I'm in the head, I'm disconnected from the body.
Yeah.
But when I'm in the body, from the heart, you know, I can mind, body, and then spirit, soul. It makes things a lot more manageable.
Yeah.
I'm in a much better place.
And I think we're so similar on the pathway to that as well, mate. You know, I said to you that, you know, I found that, say calling, but just understanding who you are, right? That understanding who you've been, because you've got to appreciate who you've been.
Of course.
You've got to take that on board, but
Yeah.
without it, you're not who you are today. Right?
Yeah, well, that's our egoic self, right?
That's it.
Yeah, and you're never going to lose that part of you. That, you know, whatever you want to call it, your shadow, your darkness. Yeah, that's always going to be there. But knowing who that person is in his full expression, and accepting it, and actually coming to love that part of you, the good sides of that ego, is definitely where it's at.
There's two things Steve Jobs says, and I love, you can't join the dots looking forward, right? You can only join the dots looking back. That quote stays with me, because you've got to live it to look back and join the dots, right?
Absolutely.
You know? But he also says if he looked in the mirror twice in 2 days, he didn't like it, he had to change something. A bit what you just said then about there's a lot of people out there that aren't sort of, maybe not being honest with themselves, but don't like what they see at the moment in the mirror. What sort of advice would you have for them?
I always find journaling super helpful, mate.
Just for the record, I got my journal in front of me. So yeah. It's like,
I know.
couldn't have asked for a better one.
It is great, right?
I honestly, 5-6 years I've done it. It's been the best thing for me as well.
Yeah, and I mean, I'm always writing. When I am in a good place, when I have stillness of the mind, and I am being my full authentic expression of myself, I am creative. And however that looks, I'll write. You know, and I'll write about, maybe it's a manifestation, or it's how I want my breathwork to unfold, or a business strategy with my speaking, and all these types of things. So like journaling is essential for these things. If you're going to journal, you may as well chuck in a gratitude list. If anything, it's just like data collection, mate. You know, it's data collection. Where are you? If you're in a cycle, like most people are, right? In a cycle of making the same mistake all the time, you know, the same shit every week, and you're thinking to yourself, what the fuck am I doing? Why do I keep doing the same thing over and over? Right, well, for a start, you need to look at your life. What are you doing wrong? And how do we change that? And you can only change that through consistent practice. And so consistent practice means, right, setting the stall out. Where am I going? What's my purpose? What's my why? Journaling, like, my goals, putting down on paper where I am now and what habits it is I'm trying to change. What is it about me that I don't like? What is it I do like? What do I want to be like? It goes back to identity, John. But then it goes to back, like, what can I do better right now? Like, do I need help? Because we all need help, John.
Yeah, we do.
We all need help. I never used to believe I needed a coach. I genuinely, and that was all ego speaking. Mate, now, I swear to God, if I had tons of money, I'd have a coach for every aspect of my life. I'd have a business coach. I'd have a life coach. I'd have a speaking coach. I'd have a breathwork coach. I would have a coach for everything, mate, because we all need help. And we all need to learn. Right? And it's just finding someone who you have rapport with, who resonates with you, who you can begin to do the work with, because we all need to do the work. However that looks. And there's so many ways to do it. Absolutely. There's no right or wrong.
No.
You know, but just do it.
Yeah, no, you know, amen. Funny enough, I've literally only just come become very comfortable with the word coach. Because I don't. When anyone asks me what I used to do, I used to say, I do a bit of this, but I coach as well.
Yeah.
Now it's like, no, I can see the difference I make in people.
Yeah.
You know, but when I say to somebody, meet me there and do this, and they don't do that, well, the relationship's done.
Yeah.
Because you've got to take that first step, but you've got to back it up, mate, haven't you?
Accountability, bro, right?
Of course it is, mate. I love that. This conversation's been great. We end this podcast with the same question every time, so I'm going to ask you this question.
Okay.
If you go back and give one bit of advice to an 18-year-old Rhys Thomas, what advice would you give him and why?
No, I don't always like to go backwards, but to be himself. No need to try and impress or be me, be authentic. That's all I needed to ever be. But I always thought that I needed to be more, or needed to show off, to gain acceptance. And I didn't need that. I was just a lovely young man anyway. But I was, if anything, by trying not to be me, it brought suffering. And it wasn't necessary. I mean, it's hard to say. I wouldn't have listened, but that's the other thing. I wasn't big into listening at this point in my life, Johnny. So I'm not going to lie to you. There's not much advice I would have taken from anyone, even myself. But I'm going to probably stick with the authenticity.
Yeah, good, mate.
Yeah.
I got to be honest, look, if there's one thing, you know, what you have got, what's really infectious, and I'm going to finish it with me, your smile is infectious.
Yeah.
Right, so you need to keep smiling like you do because it's infectious.
Yeah.
And you got such a warm heart, mate, right? So for me, every time we meet now and any time we meet going forward, it's always done with love, and you know, your transformation's been phenomenal. I've actually witnessed it from the wrong side of the bar and the right side of the bar, right? So mate, thanks ever so much for coming around the house and sharing the story.
Thanks, Johnny, boy.
Cheers, bud.
Lots of love, brother.
Thanks, mate.